The weight of silence. She was 20 when her family arranged her marriage to a man 30 years older. His name alone could quiet a courtroom or make a police chief hang up the phone and call someone else first. On their wedding night in the master bedroom of his oceanfront compound outside Portland, Maine, she stood frozen near the four-poster bed, bracing for the moment she had been told was inevitable. It never came. Instead, Jackson Harlan handed her one of his thick terry robes, dark navy, monogrammed, far too large for her frame. "Take the bed," he said quietly. "I'll be in the guest wing." As he turned toward the door, she whispered two words that hit him harder than any threat ever had. "Thank you. Thank you for not—" She couldn't finish. Jackson paused in the doorway, back still to her, the hallway light carving sharp shadows across his broad shoulders. For the first time in decades, the man who had built an empire along the eastern seaboard, shipping, real estate, quiet favors traded in back rooms from Boston to Miami, did not know what to say next. Jackson Harlan was 50, 6'3", still built like the linebacker he'd been at Dartmouth before he traded cleats for calculated power. Silver threaded his dark hair at the temples. His jaw was hard enough to cut glass. He wore custom charcoal suits without ties, sleeves rolled once, revealing forearms mapped with old scars from a life that had not always been conducted behind mahogany desks. His name carried weight because 30 years of disciplined ruthlessness had made it so. Judges remembered whose cases moved faster. Captains remembered whose calls came first. He never shouted. He never had to. The room smelled of cedar, salt air drifting through the cracked window, and the faint vanilla of the untouched bottle of Cabernet on the dresser. Everything had been prepared by staff, sheets turned down, pillows fluffed, candles lit low. None of it was for romance. It was protocol. He had agreed to the marriage the way he agreed to most deals, because it closed a loop, settled an old debt between families, moved pieces on a board most people never saw. Love had never been part of the equation. Behind him, the door clicked, shut. Soft footsteps hesitated, then stopped. He turned. She stood there in the white silk gown her mother had chosen, floor-length, high-necked, modest in front, but fitted in a way that made her look younger than 20. Her auburn hair fell in loose waves she clearly hadn't tamed. Her hands were knotted at her waist, knuckles white. Her name was Lily Prescott. She was his wife now. Not because she had said yes, not because they had dated, laughed over coffee, or even met more than twice. Because fathers had shaken hands over bourbon, and daughters had become collateral. Jackson studied her the way he studied contracts, slow, thorough, expressionless. He saw the tremor in her lower lip, the way her gaze flicked to his face then darted away, the posture of someone taught that taking up space was dangerous. "Close the door," he said, low, calm, the voice that never repeated itself. She obeyed without turning, pressing the latch with her palm as though letting go would cost her balance. He poured himself a glass of wine, did not offer her one. "Come here." She crossed the Persian rug in small, deliberate steps, stopping 6 feet away, close enough to obey, far enough to run if she had to. "Turn around." For the first time, something flashed in her eyes, raw, fleeting. She turned. He reached for the zipper. Efficient, detached. The silk parted smoothly, and then he froze. The scars started at the base of her neck and descended in overlapping ridges down her back, across her shoulders. Some thin and silver, others thicker, darker, raised like welts from something heavier than a hand, a belt perhaps, or worse. They were not random. They followed a pattern, horizontal, methodical, repeated over years. The room went deathly still. Jackson's fingers hovered, unmoving. His breath stayed even, but something deep in his chest cracked open. Lily's shoulders curled inward. She waited for the disgust, the questions, the recoil she had learned to expect. Instead, he drew the zipper back up, slow, careful, stepped back, opened his palms at his sides like showing he carried no weapon. "Who did this?" His voice was quieter than she had ever heard it. She didn't turn. Her head dropped, shoulders began to shake. "Please," she whispered, "don't ask." It was the first full sentence she had spoken to him all night. Jackson looked at the roadmap of pain etched into her skin and felt cold, Architectural rage rise inside him. Not hot, not wild, but precise. The kind that builds slowly and cuts clean. He crossed to the walk-in closet, pulled out the robe again, held it open behind her without touching. Put this on. She glanced over her shoulder, confusion, genuine and unguarded. She slipped into the robe, clutched it closed like armor. Sit, he said, nodding toward the armchair by the window. You take the bed tonight. I'll be downstairs in the study. She blinked. You're not staying? You're sleeping, that's all. He moved to the door. Mr. Harlan. He stopped, turned, lamplight caught the silver in his hair, the hard planes of his face. Thank you, she said, voice cracking. For not, he understood. Jackson looked at the woman he had married 6 hours earlier and felt something settle in his chest like a stone in deep water. Good night, Lily. He closed the door softly. For the first time in 30 years, Jackson Harlan stood in his own hallway and had no plan. The story follows the same arc. Jackson discovers Lily's past abuse by her father Raymond Prescott, a mid-level logistics operator tied to Jackson's network. He protects her, gives her space, offers her freedom. She chooses to stay. They slowly build real trust, intimacy, and mutual respect. The climax includes her wearing a backless dress to a summer gathering in Kennebunkport, openly displaying her scars as a declaration of ownership over her story. The ending reveals her pregnancy, their quiet life, and Jackson's realization that true strength lies in protection without possession. The lesson. This story reminds us that real power is never about fear or control. It is about creating safety where none existed before. True strength protects without possessing. True freedom is not handed down or escaped from. It is chosen in the moment when fear loses its grip. Healing begins not with grand gestures, but with small, consistent acts of respect. Listening instead of commanding, stepping back instead of forward, offering choice instead of obligation. Kindness, when it arrives in a place long ruled by cruelty, can feel like confusion at first, because it contradicts every lesson the body has learned. But once seen, it cannot be unseen. Once felt, it reshapes everything. In the end, the greatest legacy is not empire or wealth, but the quiet miracle of helping someone breathe freely again, and choosing day after day to be the person who makes that possible. If this story moved you, reminded you of the power of patience, belief, and chosen gentleness, please consider subscribing to and supporting Whispers of Wisdom. We share quiet tales like this one, stories that remind us what it truly means to be human, to heal, and to choose softness in a hard world. Your support keeps these whispers alive. Hit subscribe, leave a comment with the one small act of kindness that changed your day, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for listening.
Please subscribe to Whispers of Wisdom and hit the notification bell so you never miss the next one. Thank you for being here.